It was just one night.
You wanted a show? Enjoy the finale, Cheating Witch.
I always said if my marriage died, it'd die of boredom. Turns out it was homicided by a BMW and a tube of cherry lipstick I found in my wife's purse, a shade she never wore for me. My name's Nick Foster, and I'm about to tell you how I went from being Milwaukee's most pathetic husband to the guy who served revenge so cold it made the winter look tropical. 3 months ago, I was fixing Mrs. Palmer's router when I heard my wife Amber through the kitchen window, talking to her friends Gina and Lacey at our backyard barbecue. Nick's idea of romance is buying me gas station flowers, Amber laughed, that fake tinkle she used around company. Thank God Brent actually knows how to treat a woman. I froze, screwdriver halfway into the Ethernet port. Brent Calloway, her smarmy coworker with the BMW and the ego to match. Girl, you deserve better than discount roses, Gina chimed in. When's the last time Nick took you somewhere that didn't have a drive-thru? That's what I keep telling her, Lacey added. Life's too short for cheap gifts and pathetic salaries. I set down my tools and walked inside, my face burning. Amber was in the kitchen, refilling wine glasses, her blonde hair perfectly styled even for a backyard gathering. Having fun out there? I asked. She didn't even look up. Just girl talk, you wouldn't understand. Try me. It's nothing, Nick. Don't be so paranoid. Perlinquoid. Right. Like the late nights networking. The texts she wouldn't explain. The way she'd started dressing up for work like she was going to Fashion Week instead of a marketing firm. That night after everyone left, I confronted her about what I'd heard. You're being ridiculous, she said, not even pausing in her skincare routine. We were just venting. All wives complain about their husbands. About their pathetic salaries? About other men treating them better? Trembling. She finally turned around, her face mask making her look like a porcelain doll. Maybe if you put in half the effort Brent does, we wouldn't have this problem. There it was, the confirmation I'd been dreading. What kind of effort are we talking about, Amber? He listens to me. He takes me to nice places. He makes me feel appreciated. And I don't? Shrugged, turning back to the mirror. When's the last time you surprised me with anything? When's the last time you made me feel special? I wanted to remind her about the weekend getaway I'd planned for our anniversary, the one she'd canceled because Brent's team had a mandatory happy hour. Instead, I just nodded and went to bed. 2 weeks later, my laptop went missing after another one of Amber's parties. When I asked about it, she just smirked. Maybe you should keep your stuff locked up better. The way she said it, like she was enjoying some private joke, made my stomach turn. I'd installed a GPS tracker on that laptop after my last one got stolen from my work van. Old habits from the IT world. Always have a backup plan. I tracked it to Brent's address. When I called the police to report it stolen, they were surprisingly helpful. Turns out, Brent had a record for petty theft in college. When they showed up at his door, he fumbled through some story about finding it in his car, claiming someone must have put it there by mistake. Your wife might know something about this, Officer Martinez told me quietly, as Brent handed over my laptop. She was here when we arrived, seemed pretty nervous. I played dumb, thanked them, and went home to confront Amber. But this time, I was ready. Funny thing happened today, I said, setting the laptop on our kitchen counter. The police found this at Brent's place. M's face went white. I have no idea how. Here's the thing, honey. There's a camera on this laptop. It records everything, even when it's closed. Funny what people do when they think nobody's watching. It was a bluff. The camera had been broken for months, but Amber didn't know that. She crumbled like a house of cards. It was just one night, she sobbed. I was drunk, and you've been so distant lately. And Brent was there for me when you weren't. One night, sure, like the cherry lipstick had applied itself, and all those late networking sessions were just coincidence. I recorded her confession on my phone, backed it up to 3 different cloud services, and called my divorce lawyer the next morning. You wanted excitement, Amber? I said, watching her pack a suitcase with shaking hands. Buckle up. Patricia Hernandez was a shark in a business suit who'd handled my buddy Don's messy divorce 2 years earlier. The confession is good, she said, reviewing the audio file. But we need more if you want to protect your assets. Infidelity doesn't carry the weight it used to, especially if she lawyers up and claims emotional abandonment. What do you suggest? Document everything. Legally. No hacking, no spying, just smart observation. And whatever you do, don't do anything that could be construed as maltreatment or stalking. I spent the next week setting up what I called my insurance policy. A dash cam in my car that happened to record conversations when Amber borrowed it. A security system for our house that she'd agreed to months earlier. All legal, all documented, all perfectly reasonable for a guy in IT who valued his privacy. The real goldmine came from an unexpected source. Sam Calloway, Brent's ex-wife. I found her at Murphy's Bar on 5th Street, the same place Brent had taken Amber for their business meetings. She was a redhead with tired eyes and a wedding ring tan line that hadn't faded yet. "You're Nick Foster," she said when I introduced myself. "Amber's husband. I've heard about you." "Nothing good, I'm guessing." "Actually, you're the only one in this mess I feel sorry for." She took a long sip of her whiskey. Brent pulled the same crap with me. The late nights, the networking, the way he made me feel crazy for asking questions. "How long were you married?" 8 years. Found out he was cheating with his secretary, his yoga instructor, and God knows who else. Your wife's just the latest in a long line. Sam became my unlikely ally. She knew things about Brent that could ruin him. His gambling problem, the money he'd borrowed from loan sharks, the way he'd been skimming from client accounts to fund his lifestyle. "He's got to tell," she told me over our third round. "When he's lying, he touches his nose. When he's scared, he starts talking about his BMW like it's his baby. And when he's really desperate, he throws whoever he's with under the bus. Negligible. I mean, if push comes to shove, he'll sacrifice Amber to save himself. Mark my words." I put Sam's theory to the test. I showed up at Murphy's when I knew Brent would be there, ordered a beer, and waited. He was at a corner table with 2 guys I didn't recognize, talking loud enough for half the bar to hear. "The thing about married women," he was saying, "is they're so grateful for attention. Take this chick I'm seeing. Her husband's a total loser, works in IT, drives a 10-year-old Honda. She practically throws herself at me." I stood up, walked over to his table, and raised my beer. "To honest men," I said loud enough for everyone to hear, "and the women who don't deserve them." Brent's face went red. "What the hell? Brent Calloway, right? I'm Nick Foster. I think you know my wife." The bar went quiet. Brent's friends suddenly found their drinks very interesting. "I don't know what you're talking about," Brent stammered, touching his nose. "Sure you do. Amber Foster, blonde, works at Morrison Marketing, drives my car to your place on Tuesday nights." Brent stood up, trying to look tough. "You need to leave. Now." "Actually, I was just leaving. But hey, thanks for taking such good care of my laptop when it mysteriously ended up at your place. The police were so helpful getting it back." I walked out, leaving Brent sputtering explanations to his buddies. On my way past his BMW, I slipped a raw shrimp into the air vent. By the end of the week, his precious car would smell like a fish market in August. When I got home, Amber was waiting for me, her phone in her hand. Brent called. He said you embarrassed him at Murphy's. Did I? I was just being friendly. This has to stop, Nick. You're acting like a crazy person. Crazy? I'm not the one cheating on my spouse. It's over with, Brent. I told you that. We're trying to work things out, remember? I looked at her phone, still lit up with notifications. Is that why you're texting him right now? She clutched the phone to her chest. These are work messages. At 10 o'clock on a Saturday night? You're paranoid. And you're a liar. That night, while Amber was in the shower, her phone buzzed on the nightstand. The preview showed a text from B. We need to talk about the divorce strategy. Meet me tomorrow. I took a photo of the screen with my own phone. Divorce strategy. So much for working things out. The next morning, I followed Amber to what was supposed to be a yoga class. Instead, she met Brent at a coffee shop downtown. I parked across the street and used my telephoto lens, a hobby from my college photography days, to document their meeting. They had papers spread across the table, legal documents. I couldn't read them from that distance, but their body language told me everything I needed to know. This wasn't a breakup meeting. This was a planning session. When Amber came home, she was all smiles and affection. I've been thinking, she said, wrapping her arms around my neck. Maybe we should see a marriage counselor. I want to make this work. That's great, honey. I want that too. She kissed me, and I tasted the lie on her lips. Whatever she and Brent were planning, they needed me compliant and unsuspecting. Too bad for them, I was already 10 steps ahead. Patricia reviewed the photos and audio recordings I'd collected over the past month. They're planning to ambush you, she said. File for divorce first, claim emotional misuse, maybe even get a restraining order to keep you away from the house. It's a classic strategy. Can they do that? If you don't have evidence to the contrary, yes, but you do. She spread the documents across her desk. Text messages discussing strategy, photos of secret meetings, recorded confessions. We can file first and catch them completely off guard. We about my assets. Already handled. I've set up a trust for your niece's education, moved your savings into a separate account, and documented every penny Amber's been moving out of your joint account. She can't touch any of it now. While Patricia prepared the legal paperwork, I focused on the more personal aspects of my revenge. Amber and Brent had humiliated me, turned my friends against me, and tried to paint me as the villain in their twisted love story. Time to return the favor. I started with Amber's workplace. Morrison Marketing was a small firm that prided itself on its family-friendly image. Workplace affairs were strictly forbidden, especially between employees who worked on the same accounts. I didn't have to do much, just a few carefully placed comments to the right people. I hope Amber's okay, I told the receptionist when I dropped off Amber's forgotten lunch. She's been working such late hours with Brent lately. I barely see her anymore. Oh, they've been working on the Henderson account together, the receptionist said. Such a demanding client. Yeah, that's what she said. Though I have to admit, I was surprised when I saw them at that romantic little cafe downtown last weekend. Looked more like a date than a business meeting. The receptionist's eyes widened. Really? Ah, sure it was nothing. Amber would never, well, you know. By Wednesday, the gossip had reached HR. By Friday, both Amber and Brent were called in for separate meetings about maintaining professional boundaries. Amber came home that night furious. Someone's been spreading rumors about Brent and me at work. What kind of rumors? That we're having an affair. Can you believe that? I shook my head sympathetically. That's terrible. Who would say something like that? I don't know, but when I find out, they're going to pay. Was delicious. Saturday night, while Amber was at another girls' night with Gina and Lacey, I paid a visit to Brent's house. Not to break in. I wasn't stupid enough to risk a B&E charge. But his spare key was exactly where Sam said it would be, under the fake rock by his front door. I didn't take anything. Instead, I left something behind. Using Brent's own printer, I made copies of all the text messages between him and Amber, especially the ones discussing their divorce strategy and the more explicit photos they'd been sending each other. I left them in places Brent would find them, taped to his bathroom mirror, tucked into his coffee maker, stuck to his refrigerator. But the real masterpiece was his computer. I changed his screensaver to a slideshow of his and Amber's text messages, set his homepage to a website about infidelity, and programmed his email to auto-forward everything to Sam's address. When Brent came home Sunday morning, from Amber's girls' night, no doubt, he'd find a house full of evidence of his own betrayal, all printed on his own paper with his own ink. The best part? I was home with a rock-solid alibi, hosting a poker game with Don and 3 other guys who could testify I never left the house. Monday morning brought the first real fireworks. Brent called in sick to work, probably trying to clean up the mess I'd left him. Amber was jumpy and distracted, constantly checking her phone. Everything okay? I asked over breakfast. Brent's having some kind of computer problem. He thinks someone hacked him. That's terrible. Good thing I know about IT security. Want me to take a look? No, she said quickly. I mean, he's got it handled. Brought even better news. Sam called me at work, laughing so hard she could barely speak. You should see the emails I'm getting, she said. Brent's forwarding everything to me automatically, including the ones where he's begging Amber to help him figure out who's stalking him. Any good ones? Oh, honey, they're all good. But my favorite is the one where he's crying about his BMW smelling like rotting fish and wondering if he should call the police. Wednesday was the day everything came to a head. Amber's boss, Mr. Siegel, called both her and Brent into his office after receiving an anonymous tip about inappropriate workplace behavior. The tip included printed copies of their text messages and photos of their coffee shop meetings. Amber came home that afternoon in tears. "I've been suspended, pending investigation," she sobbed. "Someone sent HR all these private messages and photos. They're saying I violated company policy." "What kind of messages?" "Personal ones. Between Brent and me. Someone's been spying on us." I held her while she cried, feeling nothing but cold satisfaction. "That's awful, honey. Do you have any idea who might do something like that?" She pulled back and looked at me with sudden suspicion. You couldn't have..." "Me? Amber, I work in IT support, not corporate espionage. Besides, when would I have time to spy on you? I've been working overtime trying to pay for all your networking dinners." The doubt in her eyes told me she wasn't entirely convinced, but she couldn't prove anything. Thursday brought the coup de grace. Brent's boss at Morrison Marketing, tired of the drama and worried about the company's reputation, fired him for conduct unbecoming and violation of workplace ethics policies. Amber called me at work, hysterical. They fired Brent. They said he was having an inappropriate relationship with a coworker and that it was affecting his judgment. His boss said they couldn't risk the liability. "That's harsh. What are you going to do?" "I don't know. My job's probably next. And Brent, he's talking about leaving town, starting over somewhere else. What about you two working things out?" There was a long pause. I think maybe we moved too fast. Maybe we should focus on fixing our marriage instead." Too little, too late. But I played along. "I'd like that, Amber. I really would." That night, she tried to seduce me for the first time in months. It was pathetic, watching her try to manipulate me with the same body she'd been sharing with Brent. I played along, letting her think she was winning me back, all while planning the final phase of my revenge. The neighborhood block party was Amber's idea, a chance to reconnect with our community and show everyone that the Fosters were still a happy, stable couple. She'd been working overtime to repair her image since the workplace scandal, volunteering at the local food bank and joining the neighborhood watch committee. What she didn't know was that I'd been working just as hard to destroy it. Mrs. Palmer, our 70-year-old neighbor with a PhD in gossip, had become my unwitting accomplice. All it took was a few carefully timed conversations while helping her with her computer problems. "I'm worried about Amber," I told her while updating her antivirus software. "She's been so stressed since that incident at work. You know, the affair rumors." "Affair rumors?" Mrs. Palmer's eyes lit up like Christmas morning. "Oh, I probably shouldn't have said anything. It's just, well, the whole neighborhood saw that BMW parked in our driveway all those Tuesday nights when I was working late. And now with Amber losing her job over inappropriate workplace relationships, that handsome man with the fancy car, the one who was always here when you weren't home," sighed dramatically. I try not to think about it. Amber says it was all innocent, but the evidence, well, you can't argue with evidence. By the time the block party rolled around, half the neighborhood was whispering about the Foster marriage scandal. Amber noticed the looks, the way conversations stopped when she walked by. But she chalked it up to the workplace gossip. She had no idea what was coming. The party was in full swing when Brent showed up. He'd been drinking. I could smell it from 20 feet away. And he was angry. His unemployment had been denied. His BMW had been repossessed after he missed 2 payments. And according to Sam, he'd been kicked out of his apartment for unpaid rent. "We need to talk," he said, grabbing Amber's arm a little too roughly. "Not here," she hissed, looking around at the neighbors, pretending not to stare. "Yes, here. I'm done playing games. You promised you'd help me get through this, and instead, you're playing house with your pathetic husband. Keep your voice down. Why? Afraid people will find out the truth? That you've been cheating on Nick for months? That we were planning to take him for everything he's worth?" The party went dead silent. 30 neighbors turned to stare at the drama unfolding on the Johnsons' front lawn. Amber's face went white. "You're drunk. You don't know what you're saying." "I know exactly what I'm saying. You used me, just like you used him. The only difference is, I was stupid enough to think you actually cared." This was my moment. I stepped forward, phone in hand, and hit play on the audio recording I'd been saving for exactly this occasion. Amber's voice filled the silence. It was just one night. I was drunk, and you've been so distant lately, and Brent was there for me when you weren't. Crowd gasped. Someone's phone camera flashed. Actually, Brent's right about one thing, I said calmly. It wasn't just one night. Would you like to hear the rest of the recordings? Or maybe see some of the text messages you two have been sending? Amber lunged for my phone, but I was ready for her. I stepped aside, and she stumbled into Mrs. Palmer's rose bushes. "You fool!" she screamed, thorns caught in her dress. "You've been spying on me." "I've been protecting myself," I corrected, "from a wife who was planning to divorce me, take half my assets, and claim I was emotionally abusive. Should I play that recording too?" Brent tried to rush me, but Don and two other neighbors stepped between us. "Easy there, Romeo," Don said. "I think you've done enough damage for one night." "This isn't over," Brent snarled. "Actually, it is," I said. "Your girlfriend's been fired, you've been fired, and from what I hear, you're about to be evicted. Maybe it's time to cut your losses and move on." The police arrived 10 minutes later. Someone had called about the disturbance. They took statements from everyone, including me. I showed them the recordings, the text messages, and the photos of Brent and Amber's secret meetings. "Looks like you've got grounds for divorce," Officer Martinez said, "and possibly a restraining order if they keep maltreating you." As the crowd dispersed and the police left, Amber stood in the middle of the street, her dress torn, her makeup ruined, her reputation in tatters. "I hate you," she whispered. "I know," I said, "but at least now we're even." The restraining order was granted the following Monday. Amber had to move out of our house and stay at least 500 feet away from me at all times. She went to stay with Gina, who suddenly wasn't returning her calls as much as she used to. Brent disappeared for 2 weeks. Sam thought he might have gone back to his mother's place in Ohio, but nobody was sure. I didn't really care where he went, as long as it was far away from me. Then came the night that changed everything. It was a Thursday in late October, the kind of cold, rainy evening that makes you grateful for central heating and a good book. I was in my home office, working on a freelance project, when the security system alerted me to movement in the backyard. At first, I thought it was a raccoon or a stray cat. Then I saw the flashlight beam moving across my windows. I checked the security cameras and felt my blood run cold. Brent was stumbling around my backyard, clearly drunk, carrying what looked like a crowbar. Behind him, trying to talk him down, was Amber. I called 911 first, then Don. "They're here," I said. "Both of them. And Brent's got a weapon." "I'm 5 minutes away," Don said. "Don't do anything stupid." But I wasn't planning to do anything stupid. I was planning to do something brilliant. I activated every security feature I'd installed over the past month. Motion-activated sprinklers, floodlights, and the pièce de résistance, a speaker system that would broadcast whatever I wanted to the entire neighborhood. Brent tried the back door first, then the windows. When those didn't work, he started prying at the sliding glass door that led to my patio. That's when I hit the first switch. The sprinklers erupted like geysers, soaking both Brent and Amber in freezing water. Brent slipped on the wet deck and went down hard, the crowbar skittering away into the darkness. "What the hell?" he started to say. That's when I hit the second switch. Every floodlight in my yard blazed to life, turning my backyard into a stadium. Neighbors' lights started coming on as people looked out their windows to see what was happening. Then I hit the third switch, and Amber's voice filled the night air. It was just one night. I was drunk, and you've been so distant lately. And Brent was there for me when you weren't. The recording played on repeat while Brent tried to get to his feet, and Amber screamed for me to turn it off. By now, half the neighborhood was outside, watching the show. We were planning to take him for everything he's worth. Brent's voice joined the chorus. The recording I'd made at Murphy's Bar playing from speakers mounted in every corner of my yard. Mrs. Palmer was filming everything on her phone. The Johnsons were recording from their upstairs window. Even the teenagers from down the street had come out to watch. Brent finally made it to his feet and charged the sliding glass door. But I'd reinforced it with security film months earlier. He bounced off like a cartoon character, leaving a perfect face print on the glass. That's when the paint bombs went off. I'd rigged them to motion sensors near the door. Bright pink paint exploded all over Brent, covering him from head to toe. He looked like a deranged flamingo. Amber tried to run, but the sprinklers had turned my yard into a mud pit. She slipped and fell face first into the flower bed, her designer clothes ruined, her perfect hair caked with dirt. The police arrived just as Brent was trying to climb over my fence, still dripping pink paint and leaving a trail like a wounded animal. They tackled him in the Johnsons' yard while the entire neighborhood watched and recorded. Amber was arrested too, for violating the restraining order and criminal trespass. As they put her in handcuffs, she looked up at me standing safely behind my reinforced glass door. "You planned this," she said. "You wanted this to happen." "I planned to protect myself," I said. "You chose to come here. You chose to bring him. You chose to try to break into my house. I just made sure there were consequences." Detective Evans, the same cop who'd been handling my case from the beginning, shook his head as he surveyed the scene. "Looks like they finally got what they deserved," he said. As the police cars drove away with Brent and Amber in custody, I stood on my front porch looking out at the crowd of neighbors. Some were still recording. Others were talking excitedly about what they'd witnessed. Mrs. Palmer walked over, her phone still in her hand. "That was quite a show, Nick," she said. "I've already posted it to Facebook. It's got 50 likes and counting. Thanks, Mrs. Palmer. I appreciate all your support through this difficult time." She patted my arm. "Honey, after tonight, you're going to be the most popular man in the neighborhood. Everyone loves a good revenge story." I looked out at the faces surrounding me, neighbors who'd watched me get humiliated, betrayed, and nearly destroyed by the two people I'd trusted most. Now they were looking at me with something I hadn't seen in months. Respect. "You wanted a show?" I called out to the crowd. "Here's your headline. Cheaters never win, but sometimes the good guys do." The crowd erupted in applause and laughter. Someone shouted, "Way to go, Nick!" Another neighbor yelled, "That's how you handle cheaters!" As the excitement died down and people started heading back to their houses, I remained on my porch, watching the last of the police cars disappear into the night. My phone was buzzing with text messages. Friends who'd heard about what happened, co-workers who'd seen the videos already spreading online, even my lawyer congratulating me on a textbook case of legal self-defense. But the best message came from Sam. "Saw the video. Brent looked like a drowned rat. You're my hero." I smiled, pocketed my phone, and went back inside my house. My house, that I'd protected, that I'd fought for, that was finally, completely mine again. Tomorrow, I'd start the divorce proceedings. Tomorrow, I'd begin rebuilding my life. Tomorrow, I'd be free. But tonight, I was just going to enjoy the silence, the peace, and the sweet taste of perfectly executed revenge. Outside, the sprinklers finally shut off, leaving my yard quiet except for the gentle patter of rain, washing away the last traces of pink paint from my driveway. Justice, it turned out, was a beautiful thing.